at this awards ceremony. So what happened was I went to the bathroom once in the entire ceremony. It just so happened to be right before Tyra spoke. Her name wasn't on the program. Nobody knew she was going to speak. It was just like unexpected. By the time I left the bathroom, I got caught in some conversations in the hallway, and then I thought, oh, now is a good time to do the photo studio that they had there. So I went to the photo studio. Tyra was sitting in the room, in the corner, with her, I think, publicist, and there was no one else in the room except for the 4-person camera crew. What? I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't had a real interaction with this woman since 2004. And the story that I had been telling for so long was a story of trauma. There were so many things that happened on the show, some of which y'all know. Let's talk about manipulative editing and weaponization of girls' weaknesses, from catalyzing body dysmorphia to eating disorders, from anti-blackness to blackface photo shoots. Like, yes, there was real trauma, and it wasn't by accident, but by design. The goal was entertainment over real-world modeling preparation, and especially over mental health.
America Next Top Model changed the face of the modeling industry. It really did. It was the first show to put women of color, plus-size women, and the average everyday girl on the global stage. But here's what nobody told you. The girls who won didn't actually win, because the contracts, the connections, the career launches that we all believed were waiting at the finish line, they were never guaranteed. And the Netflix documentary proves it. And the real story, it isn't just about Tyra Banks. It's about your daughter, your son, and any person chasing a dream in an industry that has no obligation to protect them, and what happens when the parents aren't in the room. This is one of the most important conversations we can have for our families right now. And I need you to stay with me all the way through before you form an opinion, because where we're going is going to hit close to home. Welcome back to Family Still Matters. I'm Deborah. So thank you for coming back for another topic in another video. On this channel, we will talk about family, faith, culture, and the real issues that are impacting our homes every single day. We talk about what the world is presenting to our children and how we as parents and as a community can respond with wisdom and with love, because family still matters, and that will never change. Every parent wants to believe that when their child gets a big opportunity, it's real. You really want to believe that? America's Next Top Model looked like the ultimate opportunity. A nationally televised competition, a supermodel mentor, and a career waiting on the other side. But if you watched that show and believed the winner was going to walk straight into a modeling career, you weren't alone. We all thought it. That's exactly what the show wanted you to believe. And now, 20 years later, the documentary is showing us what actually happened to many young women. If you have a child, a son, a daughter with a dream of breaking into the modeling, music, or entertainment industry, this video is for you. Because the gap between what these industries promise and what they actually deliver is where careers go to die and where young people really get hurt. After watching this video, you will know exactly what questions to ask, what contracts to challenge, and what red flags to look for before your child signs anything or steps in front of anyone's camera. Because the most dangerous moment in any young person's career is the one where they believe someone powerful is finally in their corner and nobody has checked whether it's actually true. America's Next Top Model was sold to the public as a career launchpad. Every cycle, viewers watch young women compete for a modeling contract, a magazine cover, and what felt like a guaranteed future in the industry. That was the promise on screen. But here's what the documentary reveals. The executive producer, Ken Mock, admits openly that the networks wanted ratings, as we know they always do. And when you watch the show back through those lenses of ratings, what starts to make sense? The drama, the breakdowns, the humiliating makeovers, and something as vile as a psychic brought in to make a vulnerable girl cry on screen. Psychics. See what they're introducing to us? Subtly, gradually. None of that was about modeling. It was about keeping you watching. Entertainment. Some people will argue that reality TV has always worked this way, and that the girls signed up knowing it was a competition. But here's the problem with that. These were teenagers and young women in their early teens who had no idea that the narratives being built around them were designed by producers before they ever walked through the door. So they done already determined what your narrative is going to be. Yaya DaCosta said it plainly. She said the goal was entertainment over real-world modeling preparation, and especially over mental health. Then you have Eva Marcel, the actual winner of her season. She watched the documentary and said she was gobsmacked? She had done 150 projects since the show. She had to build a real career, but she was a winner. But she had no idea what the other girls went through on the very same set. The show was never primarily about making models. It was about making television. And you can see how Tyra had to jump through all kinds of hoops, and she was only finally able to get through a hoop because what? A network needed a show that was going to be different and outshine already any shows that were on television. They needed something that was competitive. And your child, let me say this again, the show was never primarily about making models. It was about making television. And your child needs to know that difference before they walk into any audition room. And it wasn't just what happened on screen that caused damage. It was who they were specifically looking for to cast. The casting process for America's Next Top Model was not simply looking for the most talented or beautiful girls. The documentary reveals something far more deliberate. Ken Mock admits that many other girls selected came from difficult family backgrounds, were not supported by their parents, and were seeking validation they weren't getting at home. Now think about what that means. Think about that family. If a young person has no family support system, there is no one to read the contract with them, no one to call a lawyer, no one to say, wait, I don't think this is right. They are alone in a room with producers, cameras, and people who have done this many times before. The show knew that, and it worked it in their favor. I know this personally. When I was a teenager, I went to see a photographer without telling my parents. He promised a modeling career, and I believed him completely. I did some local modeling. I never saw real money. What I got was clothing in exchange for my time. And even then, I spent far more out of my pocket than I ever received. The exposure I got was not the right kind of exposure. I was a teenage girl who couldn't even legally drink, performing in a fashion show held in bars and clubs. That's not a career. That is exploitation dressed up as an opportunity. And here's the part that is hardest to admit. My family was telling me the whole time. They said, this is a con. This is nothing. Walk away. But I could not hear them because the photographer, the people who had pulled me into that world, had already gotten into my head. They had me convinced so thoroughly that my dream was real and within reach, that the people who actually loved me could not get through to me. It took my family physically removing me from the city for over a month and cutting every connection I had to those people before I could see clearly again. That was in 1972. That is grooming. And it happens every single day to young people in modeling and the music industry all across this country. Some will say personal responsibility matters and that young people make their own choices. That's true. But a teenager who has been deliberately targeted, flattered, and isolated from their family's counsel is not making a free choice. They are making a manipulated one. And the industry knows exactly how to do it. We saw this pattern play out in the music industry. Artists signed contracts they didn't understand, gave away rights they didn't know they had, and spent years trying to recover what was taken from them. The mechanism is the same. Find someone with a dream and limited support, put a contract in front of them, and move fast before anyone can ask questions. This is why your presence as a parent or a guardian is not optional. It is the single most important protection your child has. But even when a parent is present, there is one more layer that almost nobody talks about. What the industry actually owes these young people once the camera stops rolling. Here's the hardest part, or the hardest truth in this entire conversation. When America's Next Top Model ended, each cycle, the show had no binding obligation to ensure those young women had careers. The winner received a contract and a prize, but the modeling industry is not a straight road where talent equals success and TV wins does not open agency doors. Tyra Banks believed she had the connection to change that. The documentary shows she did not have the industry leverage she thought she had. For instance, Shannon, the runner-up from Cycle 1, received flowers from Tyra after losing with a note saying agencies wanted her. But good intentions are not contracts. Then we have Yaya DaCosta, has spoken about the trauma of the experience and the years it took to reach a place of freedom and forgiveness. And then we have Eva Marcel, who built a real career, But she did it through her own relentless work over 21 years, not because the show handed her a path forward. Some will point to success stories as proof the system worked, but those success stories succeeded in spite of the gaps in the system, not because of it. The show gave young women exposure. It did not give them infrastructure, guaranteed agency representation, financial literacy, or mental health support. Exposure without infrastructure is just visibility with no floor underneath you. And I want to say something directly to every parent watching this. I know firsthand what this industry can do to a person, not from reading about it, from watching it happen. I have seen young people full of talent, full of promise, with gifts they were meant to share with the world, walk into these industries and come out the other side ultimately destroyed. Not broken and rebuilt, destroyed. Stripped down to the point where they turned away from every gift they had, refused to sing again, refused to perform, refused to even believe in themselves anymore. The industry did not consume their talent, it consumed them. We talk about Aaliyah. We talk about Britney Spears. We talk about young Usher, young Justin Bieber, children who went into these industries without consistent, informed, present parental protection and came out the other side mentally and emotionally damaged in ways the public only partially sees. These are not isolated tragedies. They are the predictable outcome of sending young people into a system that has no legal obligation to protect them and every financial incentive to use them up. Think about that. So I'm saying this plainly. If you are serious about helping your child pursue a dream in modeling or music or entertainment of some kind, you need to be serious enough to be there. Not dropping them off, not trusting the photographer, not believing the label. There, present, asking questions, reading contracts, vetting agencies. Because if you are not in that room, someone else is filling that space. And they are not going to have your child's best interest at heart. Before your child signs anything in any industry, you need to know exactly what is guaranteed in writing, who is legally responsible if these guarantees are not met, and what happens when the camera stops rolling. The lesson of America's Next Top Model is not about Tyra Banks. It's about what happens when young people with real dreams meet industries that have no obligation to protect them and no one is standing in the gap. Yaya Coster found her freedom through forgiveness. Even Marcel built her career through sheer determination. But not every girl got out whole, and some never got out at all. Do not send your child into a lion's den and hope for the best. Hope is not a strategy. Presence is. Vetting is. Asking hard questions is. If the agency is not established, if the contract is not guaranteed, if the opportunity requires your child to be somewhere without you, that's your signal. Pay attention. If this video said something you needed to hear today, I want you to do a few things for me. Like the video. It helps more families find the content. Leave a comment below and tell me your thoughts. Tell me your story or what you want me to cover next. And if you believe this is content that could protect the family, share it. Share it with a parent. Share it with a young person who is chasing a dream. And if you are not yet a subscriber, subscribe to the channel. I would love for you to join our community here at Family Still Matters. Again, I'm Deborah. This is Family Still Matters, and protecting our children matters too. May God continue to richly bless you. God bless.